The Architecture of Reality, a comprehensive analysis of tarot as an escape mechanism from the Matrix 1. Introduction, the simulation hypothesis and the archival mind. The query, Tarot and the Matrix, invites an investigation that transcends the boundaries of traditional occultism, venturing into the high-stakes territories of theoretical physics, information theory, and the architecture of consciousness itself. In the contemporary zeitgeist, the Matrix has evolved from a cinematic metaphor into a robust philosophical and scientific hypothesis that the reality we perceive is a constructed simulation, a closed-loop system governed by rigid algorithms designed to harvest cognitive energy or maintain a specific state of entropy 1. If one accepts the premise of the Matrix, whether as the Gnostic Kanoma, the Vedic Maya, or a literal digital simulation, the immediate corollary is the necessity of an exit strategy, or at least a map of the source report posits that the tarot, a 78-card deck often dismissed as a tool for parlor divination, functions as this precise map. Through the synthesis of Hugh Comer's galactic superwave theory 1, the theoretical physics of the E6 Lally algebra, as explored by researchers like Tony Smith 4, and the narrow gate theology of Dennis J. Wilson 6, we uncover a unified system. This system suggests that the tarot encapsulates the mathematical and archetypal structure of the universe, serving as an interface that allows the initiated consciousness to rewrite its local reality and potentially escape the deterministic constraints of the simulation. We will explore how the tarot structure mirrors the 78 dimensions of the E6 Dolls Lie group, a mathematical object used in string theory to describe the fundamental forces of nature. We will examine the lyrical philosophy of Sting, who describes the sacred geometry of chance as a mechanism to expose the hidden laws of this probabilistic reality. Finally, we will integrate modern technostic concepts like negentropy logic and sovereign stacks. 8. Demonstrating that the ancient wisdom of the tarot and the cutting-edge code of decentralized systems are parallel technologies aiming for the same goal: absolute sovereignty of the soul against a legacy system of control. 1.1. Defining the Matrix, the legacy system of control. To understand the tarot as a tool of liberation, we must first define the prison. In the context of the gathered research, the Matrix is identified not merely as a physical illusion, but as a legacy world system. It is characterized by entropy fragmentation and the cyclical recycling of consciousness without evolution. Hugh Comer describes it as a state of blackness of meaningless space, where the unawakened mind spins aimlessly, disconnected from the cosmic Tao or flow of the universe. The Matrix operates through entropic drag, a system designed to exhaust energy, requiring constant input to maintain. Probability, a hidden law of a probable outcome. 7. That keeps individuals trapped in predictable loops of behavior. Fragmented perception, the illusion of separation between the observer and the observed, preventing the realization of the union that Comer identifies as the key to escape. 9. The tarot counters these mechanisms by introducing negentropy 8, revealing the sacred geometry of chance 7, and unifying the psyche through the integration of archetypes. 102. The Galactic Superwave Protocol. Hugh Comer's Cosmic Interface 2.1, the Galactic Superwave as an Evolutionary Trigger. Hugh Comer's The Galactic Superwave Tarot, Escape from the Matrix for a Spiritual Awakening, provides the cosmological framework for this analysis. Comer posits that the Matrix is a quarantine field or a state of dormancy that shields humanity from the full reality of the cosmos. The galactic superwave is a theoretical event, a volley of intense cosmic rays and gravitational waves from the galactic center that acts as a periodic evolutionary trigger. In Comer's model, the Matrix is the sleep state, and the superwave is the alarm clock. The danger lies in the transition. A consciousness that is rigid, structured by the fear-based algorithms of the Matrix, will experience this influx of energy as catastrophic, a shattering of reality. A consciousness that has tuned itself to the frequencies of the superwave, however, will experience it as a spiritual awakening and a liberation. The tarot deck Comer designed is not just a set of images, but a tuning device. It is intended to align the user's spin states with the incoming galactic frequencies. This concept of spin is critical. In physics, spin defines the intrinsic angular momentum of a particle. In Comer's metaphysics, It defines the orientation of the soul. The matrix creates a retrograde or entropic spin. The tarot initiates a prograde or negentropic spin, allowing the consciousness to ride the superwave rather than be crushed by it. 32.2. The Egyptian Connection. The Hall of Records, beneath the Sphinx. Colmer anchors his system in deep antiquity, citing the Neoplatonist Iamblichus and his accounts of the Egyptian initiation into the mysteries of Osiris. 11. This historical thread suggests that the tarot is not a medieval invention, but a recovered fragment of a much older technology, a matrix of wisdom stored in the Hall of Records. 12. Iamblichus describes a long gallery with 22 symbolic frescoes, located in a subterranean labyrinth beneath the Sphinx. 11. These frescoes were used to test the intuition, intelligence, and moral courage of the initiate. The initiate, blindfolded and led by a hierophant, had to navigate this labyrinth, a physical representation of the matrix. The frescoes served as the keys to the puzzle. Ancient archetype tarot correspondence function in the matrix, the labyrinth, the material world, the construct, the confusing entrapment structure of the frescoes, the 22 major arcana, the source code keys that unlock specific gates in the Hierophant card 5. The external guide or daemon that assists the initiation, the Fool's Journey. The process of rewriting the internal software to survive the lineage implies that the tarot was designed specifically as a simulator for the death-rebirth process. The escape from the matrix is technically a death to the simulated self and a rebirth into the real. The ancient Egyptians understood that this transition required a map. The tarot is that map, preserved through the dark ages of the matrix control system by disguising it as a game of chance. 112.3 spin states and the Tao of Union. A central mechanism in Colmer's system is union. He cites the Tao Te Ching, noting that the goal is union with this Tao we cannot express. 9. In the dualistic reality of the matrix, everything is split into binary opposites, 0 and 1, yin and yang, self and other. This binary code is the foundation of the digital tarot works to resolve these binaries. Colmer points to the symbol of the yin-yang, a circle divided by a serpentine curve. 9. This curve represents the dynamic flow of life that the matrix seeks to arrest. The black portion and the white portion must be understood not as enemies, but as complementary spin men. We see the culmination of this process. The central figure is surrounded by the 4 cherubim, point 9. Colmer interprets these as the 4 powers of the Sphinx. To know, accessing the hidden data of the simulation. To will, exerting sovereign force against the entropic drag. To dare, facing the galactic superwave and the ego death. To keep silent, conserving energy to maintain the new spin state. When these 4 powers are balanced, the spin of the individual aligns with the spin of the galaxy. The blackness of meaningless space, 9 dissolves, and the matrix is revealed to be a solvable puzzle. The physics of the simulation, the E6 Lie algebra and the 78 dimensions. 3.1. The mathematical coincidence, 78 cards, 78 dimensions. The most compelling evidence for the tarot as a matrix map comes from the domain of theoretical physics, specifically the study of Lie algebras. Lie algebras are mathematical structures that describe continuous symmetries, essential for modeling the fluid, dynamic nature of spacetime and quantum E6 dolls. Lie algebra is a specific group used in grand unified theories and string theory. It is an exceptional simple Lie group with a dimension of 78. This number is not an approximation. The E6 dolls algebra has exactly 78 generators for. The standard tarot deck has exactly 78 cards. Researchers like Tony Smith have proposed that this is not a coincidence, but a case of ancient science, where the structure of the tarot intuitively or deliberately mirrors the structure of reality 14. If the universe is a matrix, E6 is the geometry of its processor. The tarot, therefore, acts as a GUI for the E6 code, 3.2, mapping the code. The D5 subalgebra and spinners. The research snippets provide a detailed breakdown of how the 78 cards map to the 78 dimensions of E6. This mapping reveals the hierarchical structure of the simulation. 13th, the breakdown of the 78 dimensions. $78, 45 plus 32 plus 1, the 45 dimensions of D5. The D5 Lie algebra describes the 10-dimensional spacetime posited by string theory and the gauge bosons that operate within it. Tarot correspondence. These 45 dimensions correspond to the number cards of the minor arcana and specific major arcana that govern laws or forces. Point fifth matrix function. These cards represent the physics engine of the matrix, gravity, electromagnetism, and the causal loops of time and space. When a reading is dominated by these cards, the querent is subject to the deterministic laws of the simulation. The 32 dimensions of spinors. In physics, spinors are mathematical entities that describe fermions, the particles of matter that make up the solid world. Crucially, spinors have a unique property. They must rotate 720 degrees to return to their original state. Tarot correspondence. These 32 dimensions map to the 16 court cards, 16 major arcana representing archetypal consciousness, 13 matrix function. These represent the agents or the avatars within the simulation. The court cards are the personalities, the masks worn by consciousness. The complex space of 16 dimensions mentioned in the Research 16 suggests that these figures exist in a hyperdimensional state, intersecting with our 3D reality only partially. The one scalar dimension. The final component is the single scalar dimension, often associated with the central charge or the unifying principle. Tarot correspondence. This is the fool or the world. The alpha and the omega. Matrix function. This is the 0 point. It is the exit. It represents the consciousness that exists outside the simulation, observing it. It is the negentropy source. Point 3, the Feynman checkerboard and the game of life. The research mentions the Feynman checkerboard physics model, which constructs continuous reality from discrete steps. 4. This is analogous to the concept of a cellular automaton or a digital simulation, where continuous motion is actually a rapid series of discrete frames. The tarot spread acts as a slice of this checkerboard. By laying out the cards, the reader freezes the simulation's frame buffer, allowing them to analyze the spin representations 15 of the current moment. This confirms the hypothesis that the tarot is a diagnostic tool for the simulation state. It reads the RAM of the matrix at a specific coordinate in spacetime. 3.4 Spin and triality, the deep structure. The research also alludes to triality, and the D4 dot lattice. Point 1. Triality is a rare mathematical symmetry where vectors and spinors can be swapped. In matrix terms, this means that matter and force are interchangeable at a fundamental level. Implication. This is the scientific basis for magic. If an initiate can access the triality level of the code, they can transmute mind into force. This is the secret that the matrix hides. The user has root access if they know the password. The tarot teaches the password. Bot 4. The geometry of chance. Sting's lyrical gnosis. 4.1. The sacred geometry of chance. While physicists use algebra to describe the matrix, the artist Sting uses poetry to describe the experience of navigating it. His song, Shape of My Heart, is cited extensively in the research as a meditation on the tarot and the nature of probability. Sting sings of a gambler who deals the cards to find the answer, the sacred geometry of chance, the hidden law of a probable outcome. 7. This gambler is the archetype of the Gnostic playing for money, rejecting the economic control system of the playing for respect, rejecting the social hierarchy of the to hack the code. Seeking the hidden law that governs the assimilated reality, there is no true randomness, only pseudo-random number generators. The sacred geometry of chance is the pattern of the PRNG. If the gambler finds this pattern, he transcends the game. He stops being a player and becomes a programmer. 4.2. The suits as matrix subsystems. Sting's lyrics provide a functional decoding of the 4 tarot suits, mapping them to the subsystems of the matrix control grid. 7. Suit Sting's lyric matrix subsystem, physics, tarot mapping spades, swords of a soldier, military-industrial complex, intellect, the enforcement arm of the matrix, the analytic mind that divides and slash, conflict, analysis, clubs, weapons of war, energy, will, action, the raw power used to drive the simulation, the struggle for creativity, burnout, diamonds, money for this art, financial system, resource extraction, the currency that keeps the simulation running. Materialism, earth, matter, value, hearts. Shape of my heart, the anomalous variable. The love or gnosis that does not fit the Euclidean geometry of the matrix. Water, emotion, intuition. Sting's conclusion. But that's not the shape of my heart, is the rejection of the matrix's definitions. The shape of the human essence is not a sword, a weapon, or money. It is something else. something that the sacred geometry of the cards points to but cannot fully contain. This is the inexpressible Tao mentioned by Colmer 94.3. The Mask of the One Sting sings, "I'm not a man of too many faces. The mask I wear is one." 18 in the Matrix, the persona is the interface we use to interact with the simulation. Most people wear many masks, fragmented by the system. The initiate wears one mask, meaning they have achieved integration. They are the same person in all dimensions. This integrity is the diamond body or the philosopher's stone required to survive the galactic superwave. 5. The Narrow Gate. Dennis J. Wilson and the Christian Gnostic Path 5.1, The Fifth Gospel and the Lost Years. Dennis J. Wilson's work, Ancient Tarot Secrets, A Path to Enlightenment, bridges the gap between the scientific magical view and the religious view. Wilson reframes the tarot as a repository of the lost teachings of Christ, specifically the metaphysical training Yeshua received in India and Tibet during his lost years. 19 Wilson argues that the doctrine that Yeshua preached was changed by early church leaders to gain temporal power. 19. This is the classic definition of the Matrix co-opting a truth movement. The official church became a layer of the Matrix, enforcing dogma to prevent direct access to the tarot, however, survived as a fifth gospel because it was pictorial and disguised. It encodes the actual method of salvation, not blind faith, but knowledge, applied to daily life. 205.2, The Narrow Gate versus the Wide Path. Wilson explicitly links the tarot to the biblical narrow gate. 20, The Wide Path, the path of the masses, the path of least resistance, the default algorithm of the Matrix. It leads to destruction. The narrow gate, the hard way, found by few. This is the path of high magic, of the E6 lattice, of the galactic superwave. The tarot is the map to the gate. 6. The major arcana describe the specific psychological and spiritual ordeals one must pass through to fit through this gate. For example, passing from the tower to the star is a navigation of the narrow gate. Wilson emphasizes that this knowledge is available to any individual who is willing to learn. 21. This is the democratization of gnosis. The Matrix relies on gatekeepers. The tarot removes them. Quantum reality and the observer. The Stopforth-Butler integration. 6.1. The Quantum Tarot, Merging Physics and Myth. The Quantum Tarot by Kay Stopforth and Chris Butler represents the modern synthesis of these ideas. This deck explicitly combines revolutionary theories of 20th and 21st century physics with traditional tarot wisdom. 22. The imagery includes photos from the Hubble Space Telescope, visually grounding the archetypes in the actual cosmos rather than medieval fantasy. 6.2. The observer effect and wave function collapse. The core contribution of the quantum tarot to the matrix theory is the application of the observer effect. In quantum mechanics, a system exists in a superposition of states until it is observed, at which point it collapses into a single state, matrix dynamics. The matrix simulation maintains its stability because the collective consciousness of humanity expects it to be stable. We collectively observe the same rigid reality into existence every millisecond, tarot as disruption. When a reader shuffles and draws cards, they are introducing a controlled randomness into the observation field. They are asking the universe to show a hidden probability. By observing the spread, the reader collapses a specific narrative out of the quantum, makes the tarot a tool for timeline selection. In a multiverse, there are infinite versions of the future. The Matrix wants to funnel you into the legacy timeline. The tarot allows you to see the branching paths and consciously select a sovereign timeline. Point 6.3, the universe cards and the multiverse. The snippets mention the Ultimate Multiverse Tarot 3, and the universe cards. 23. This reinforces the idea that we are not living in a single static universe, but in a dynamic multiverse. The escape from the Matrix is not leaving the universe entirely, but shifting from a lower density universe to a higher density universe. The tarot is the navigation computer for this interdimensional jump. 7. Technosis, the Sovereign Stack and Negentropy Logic 7.1. The Master Bridge, Scenic Bypass. The research introduces a fascinating modern iteration of these esoteric concepts in the form of Scenic Bypass, a project by Michael Lawrence Kersey, 8. While framed in the language of software development, the underlying philosophy is pure Gnosticism. Kersey describes his work as building a master bridge to connect the legacy world with the new world. Legacy world equals the Matrix. The old systems of control, banking, and centralized power. New world, the escape. A decentralized sovereign, scenic bypass is the technological equivalent of the tarot. Just as the tarot allows the mind to bypass the legacy programming of the ego, the scenic bypass allows the user to bypass the fragmented APIs of the control grid. 7.2 zero-point negentropy logic, Kersey introduces the concept of zero-point negentropy logic to reverse system drag. Entropy, the tendency toward disorder, energy loss, and death. The matrix feeds on entropy, negentropy, negative entropy, the tendency toward order, complexity, and life. Life is Tarot is a negentropy machine. By taking a shuffled deck and organizing it into a spread, the reader generates negentropy. They create meaning out of noise. This negentropy logic is the fuel required to power the master bridge out of the simulation. 7.3, the triple ledger and bioacoustics. The sovereign stack includes a triple ledger and a bioacoustics engine. 8, triple ledger. In the matrix, history is mutable. In the sovereign reality, truth is immutable. The tarot serves as the triple ledger of the soul, an unchangeable record of archetypal truth, bioacoustics. Kersey mentions converting DNA sequences into audio frequencies. 8. This circles back to Hugh Colmer's galactic superwave. The escape involves tuning the biological body to cosmic frequencies. Whether via a bioacoustics engine or the mantra meditation of the tarot cards, the goal is the same: to upgrade the hardware so it can run the new software of the awakened consciousness. 8. Synthesis, the universal algorithm of liberation. 8.1, the convergent model. When we overlay the models of Colmer, Wilson, Smith, Sting, and Kersey, a singular coherent picture emerges. The matrix is a multi-layered construct, the physical layer, a 78-dimensional geometric lattice that defines the laws of physics. The tarot maps this biological layer, a biocomputer operating on spin states. The matrix keeps these in retrograde spin. The tarot superwave flips them to prograde. Psychological layer, a drama of fragmented personas. The matrix encourages fragmentation. The tarot facilitates union. The theological layer, a spiritual test. The matrix is the wide path of ignorance. The tarot is the narrow gate of hidden technological layer, a conflict of operating systems. The matrix is the centralized legacy OS. The escape is the decentralized sovereign stack. 8.2, the tarot as the key. The tarot is the universal key because it speaks the language of all these layers as math. It is art. It is code. It is vibration. By using the tarot, the initiate performs a full stack operation. They are debugging their reality from the kernel level up to the UI level. 8.3. Future implications. The democratization of the escape. The emergence of these theories suggests a cultural shift. The escape from the matrix is moving from the realm of sci-fi fantasy to actionable engineering. We see this in the technosis of developers building sovereign stacks and in the quantum mysticism of physicists mapping Lie algebras to ancient future of tarot is not in fortune-telling, but in reality engineering. It will be used as a dashboard for the scenic bypass, a tool to navigate the collapsing structures of the legacy world and bridge the gap to the negentropic future. As Sting reminds us, the goal is not to win the game, but to understand the hidden law. Once the law is understood, the game is no longer a cage, but a playground. 9. Detailed data analysis. 9.1, the E6 tarot mapping table. Based on the research of Tony Smith and the Sting Tarot Papers 13, the following table maps the 78 dimensions of the E6 Dalai algebra to the tarot structure. E6 component dimensions, tarot correspondence, physics, matrix, function. Subalgebra 45, the numbered minor arcana plus specific majors. Space-time and forces. The rigid laws of the simulation, the playing field, spinner 16, the court cards, matter and agents, the personalities and solid objects within the matrix. The masks, we space 16 specific major arcana, the astral mental plane, the underlying code that generates the spinners, the realm of archetypes. $1. Scalar 1, the fool, the world, the singularity, the entry-exit point, the observer, pure consciousness, total 78 full tarot deck, the complete matrix source code. 9.2, the shape of my heart, suit analysis, based on Sting's lyrics and the interview data, suit tarot equivalent, Sting's definition, matrix decoding, spade swords, swords of a soldier, intellectual warfare, The use of logic to enforce the matrix or to cut through it. The danger of over-rationalization, clubs wands, weapons of war, energetic conflict, the struggle for power and dominance. The war program of the matrix history. Diamonds, pentacles, money for this art, material economy. The financial shackles, the illusion that value is external rather than internal. Heart's cup, shape of my heart, the non-Euclidean truth, the love that cannot be mapped by the matrix's geometry of chance. The escape route, 9-3, the Kolmar spin state protocol based on Hugh Kolmar's galactic superwave theory, state spin, direction, matrix status, tarot card trigger, result, dormant, retrograde, static, trapped, asleep. Subject to entropy and external tower, continued suffering and recycling, awakening, oscillating, questioning, seeing the glitches in the hanged man, suspension of judgment, reversal of active navigating, using the narrow gate to move between magician, chariot, conscious creation, scenic bypass, unified superluminal zero-point escaped sovereign, aligned with the galactic world, universe, total integration, nedge entropy, immortality, end of report.